Our next guest, as you know, is Greg Stoller, our reporter from Boston College on International Business. Welcome back, Greg.
Thank you. It's good to be back, Jeffrey and Peter.
Have you been traveling the globe or not recently?
I've not been traveling, but that's coming up next week. With BC's blessing, I'm headed to France for a few days to teach a course for the 11th year in a row.
Wow, in France.
In France.
Ça c'est bon.
Oui.
I bet you their cafeteria has good food.
Oh, you kidding? It's unbelievable. It's like a food coma. Every single meal is like a food coma. It's really wonderful.
Oh, wow. So what's the interesting topic you're bringing to us today?
The interesting topic is that I mark my calendar by this annually. 2 weeks ago, I just watched nearly 30 entrepreneurs pitch to my students for 5 minutes apiece, followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. They were reviewed by not only the students' own opinions, but also 2 panels of judges that I employed as volunteers. And as often happens, 2/3 of the 30 got selected, and it's been really interesting to analyze what got a certain idea to get selected versus not get selected.
Is there any trend?
There is a trend. I think this year, as I was looking at the data, it was all about how seriously the presenters responded to the body language of the audience or the body language of the judges. Because let's face it, guys, right? It's a 5-minute pitch. It's very carefully scripted. It's very carefully rehearsed. People do not want to depart from their prepared remarks, but that's not how business works. You have to be willing to call an audible. You have to be willing to change what you're saying, even if you don't want to, based on nonverbal communication, how people's eyes are shifting, and the questions that they're asking.
You know, what's interesting to me in listening to this is that what got your attention, and got the people in the audiences and the judges' attention is the way these messages were delivered. How connected were you to the audience? And it really speaks to, how people need to understand that their interpersonal skills.
So that's why I feel so fortunate to be able to teach this class and run this program. Every year, it's somewhat of a moving target. We tend to focus on something else. A few years ago, it was X. 2 years ago, it might have been Y. I would say last year, the focus was on improving the quality of the 2-page write-ups and the 5-minute PowerPoint deck that each of the presenters delivered so that the students would really understand potentially what they would be getting into, but more importantly, what the 3 or 4 areas that the business plan was going to cover, so that everybody is rowing in the same boat. This year, obviously, with the somewhat apathetic approach that some of the presenters took to audience reaction, I think next year's focus is going to be on improving the live presentation as well.
Looking back, would you say that the last year's and the year before's were as apathetic?
I wouldn't say, and maybe apathy is too strong of a term.
Okay.
I just think that it's a very rare person. And by the way, the 2/3 that got selected, I've watched the videos, and it's clear that they, were able to change their prepared remarks, or at least what the audience was saying resonated with them in Q&A. Those were the 20 out of 30 that ultimately got selected. So whether you say the other 10 were apathetic or not, I think is probably a little bit over the top in terms of being critical, but I think it's directionally correct that you're not, as Jeffrey just said, you're not just presenting, you're presenting to a live panel of people. And now, of course, that was just 1 week out of the course. The fun has started. The teams have been assigned. I've got 20 volunteer mentors who are working with each of the 20 teams on a one-to-one basis. I've got 10 third-year law students from BC's Law School who are working with 2 teams apiece, helping them assess the legal issues affecting their ventures. And now, over the next 10 weeks, it's 17 teams technically. Those 17 teams are going to push forward and write full-length business plans for these entrepreneurs. All of the work completed free of charge, and the entrepreneurs maintain all IP rights.